Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are once again in the car. It's late. We are once again back in the car.
We are in a car. We don't know what car, but we are in a car. We just found it laying around. We thought we'd jump in and do a review. Let's do it!
Why does the dashboard say Uber?
And who's Jeff?
Okay, anyway. Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are once again in the car, which means we have seen yet another film. Tonight's film was, so we decided to go see a film that probably hasn't been released widely in a bunch of movie theaters and stuff like that, because the only new release that came out this week was Night Swim.
Yep.
And we weren't necessarily super interested in doing a review of that. But after the night film, I might do it. Tonight's film, we watched instead the independent B film, The Painter, starring Jon Voight and a bunch of no-names. If you guys aren't aware of it, you're probably in the wider percentage than us. Essentially, the film takes place, ex-CIA agent who becomes a painter after a horrible incident, runs into somebody claiming to be his daughter, who then leads him on a really long, the plot ensues, and thrills happen as he has to get the drive, save the girl, and Mr. Krabs.
Okay, this movie is just literally another carbon copy of the movies like Taken, Equalizer, Transporter, what's that CIA one? The Bourne trilogy, or Quadrant, whatever it is, where a guy who had training does things to get out of things that get him in trouble because of his past. They all have a different take on it, but it's that same kind of movie.
Yes, it is. It's a B version of that movie.
It's ex-CIA is now fighting for his life against the agency he used to work for. It's literally what this movie is.
Yeah.
But the difference is how it's executed. And I just mentioned a bunch of movies that are very different with the same premise. So
yeah,
it's almost a genre. It's a genre of its own. Like,
oh, it is.
X spy genre. I wonder if it even has a name. But anyway, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. Just wanted to give it a clear description.
Anyway, let's just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off. DJ, in your opinion, scale of 1 to 10, what do you rate this film?
4.5.
Okay, why?
Okay. I will start off just saying that I actually kind of enjoyed the film overall. I had a fun time watching it. But there's a lot to unpack here. And I'll have to hit spoilers to get a big chunks, but the big three that it fails at is the pacing is weird as heck. Like, pacing wise, it doesn't know where it wants to. It has like 3 beginnings to the film, and it kind of does the same thing in really weird ways. It's confusing and confuzzled, and I'll get more detail later. Number 2 is that it is super predictable, which I can get behind if it's fun. But the predictability of it is, you know, everything that's going to happen before it's happened, not because it's like easily to tell. The movie literally tells you, and foreshadowing by beating you over the head with what's going to happen.
Yep.
It's way too. It dumbs it down so much, I think, because it's like, oh, the audience is stupid. It insults the audience's intelligence is what this movie does. Yeah. You guys are stupid. So in order to make sure you know what's going on, by the way, this is happening. Did you know this is happening? It's happening. Yeah, so-and-so's the bad guy. You knew he was. Oh, you're not sure? Well, here it is again. That happens through the whole film. Yeah. And I don't want to rant too much about it, but it hurts how insulting it is to the intelligence of the audience. And then the third major flaw is cinematography is just all over the place. A lot of camera some of the things we talked about in other films is like technically they're good. Like What Happens Later is like technically good. This film is messy. Weird edits, weird angles, weird cuts.
Weird decisions with the camera.
Fight scenes that go on really long and weird angles. In a lot of action films,
choppy choreography.
Yeah, in a lot of action films, in order to keep it interesting, the fights will be dynamic. They'll move through a scene or through this one. Literally, there's a point where they have a hand-to-hand combat scene that takes place with them right in front of each other for like 5 minutes. It's just them doing this, and it's like, which they've done it like Jackie Chan films, but it's not nearly as entertaining to watch. It's literally like, and you're like, do something. That's like the big ones for me. It's just messy and all that, but it's rough, man.
Yeah. For me personally, this film almost hit a 0. Because I honestly got really fed up with it. I almost left the theater. Like, that would be a 1 or a 0 immediately if I had to leave the theater. But I stuck through. I would give this film a 1.5. But here's the thing, like, I give it a 1.5, but it's one of those things where it's the film in and of itself, the way that it's shot, the way that's put together, is insulting to watch. Because it literally suffers from this idea of, I'm a genius. Like, the writer had... It's clear that the author of the screenplay decided, I'm a genius, everybody else is stupid, I have to hit people over the head with every little thing.
Or somebody.
Yeah.
Again, I'll say this again. You never really know exactly without seeing the original screenplay and the direction, like who is the one that interjected. Yeah. But somebody in this production felt that they were smarter than everybody else and felt that they had to dumb it down for the common people. And they dumbed it down so badly that it's just horribly predictable.
It's horribly predictable, but it's insulting. Because the thing is that, like, while you're watching the film, it's constantly hitting you with stuff that's really plainly obvious. It's reminding you of things that's very clearly thrown in as foreshadowing. It hits you over the head.
It's even worse than that. It's a good example is like literally there's a chair in the middle of the room. This is the best example. There's a chair in the middle of the room. Someone walks in. There's a chair there. Did you know there's a chair there? You better work out for that chair. That chair might do something. I don't know, but there's a chair. Did you know there's a chair? There's a chair. That chair might do something.
And then somebody picks up the chair and hits you with it.
And hits you with it. Like, dude, why do you keep talking about the chair? We already know the chair is going to be used as a weapon. Like, we can see it's the only thing in the room. Like, that's literally what this movie is, and it does it over and over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those things where it's so... I'm so smart that it insults the audience, but then this is the thing that really just grinds my gears. The writing is awful. Like, the actual dialogue writing is awful. The decisions with the dialogue is awful. The story is overly predictable, but it's also extremely bland and boring. And the other thing, too, is there is a more interesting story in the film that they chose not to do. There are, like, 6 or 7 times that I'm watching the film, and I'm going, this could be an interesting story. Yeah, this would be an interesting twist. This would be an interesting twist. And it's in the script, but then it goes in the most, like, please don't do this. Like, literally halfway through the film, it's like, please don't do this. They did it. Please don't do this. They did it.
Yeah, and on top of the please don't do this, they did it stuff is, even the dialogue that is good is delivered weirdly. Like, I have to give credit to the lead actor because it felt like he was working really hard with something really bad. Because his lines would be like, really badly written dialogue, but he would deliver it in a way that almost made it sound like that's not as bad as that sound. Like, that he somehow makes that dialogue less corny than it sounds like if I were to say it. Like, I'm hearing him say something, I'm like, oh, that's really bad dialogue, but for him, like, it actually doesn't sound so bad.
Like, if you actually pay attention to the written dialogue, you're just like, no human being talks like this. And then the other thing, too, is, like, going with the choppiness of the cinematography and stuff like that, the choreography of the fights, you can almost tell that the main character is counting in his head. I do this now, and then I do this, and then I do this, and then, number 4 is I go back here, number 5 is I go over here, and then I turn slowly so I can kick this guy in the head.
The very first scene where he fights, when he's, like, stabbing a bunch of people, he's got his knife, and he's like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, got him 5 times. That's right. Okay, now shoot in head. Okay, this guy 6 times. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think that's what the choreography was. All right, good. Shoot in head. Yeah. It feels so scripted. The dialogue does not, the fight scenes don't flow naturally. They are heavily scripted. And the first time in the entire film a fight scene looks like it's actually kind of a legit fight scene is right towards the very end when he fights the head. Well, I'd probably get a little spoily, but he fights a guy towards the end of the film.
He fights,
and it feels a little more.
He fights
realistic.
The main antagonist that's shown in the film.
And it feels more. Realistic. But it's still boring because it's shot and framed in like one scene and it's not very active. But it feels like a real fight at least. The other ones feel literally scripted. That was the first fight in the entire film that didn't feel scripted.
And it was the last one.
And it was the last one. And it was still boring anyway because it wasn't exciting.
But the other thing too is like, it's also a thing of like the blocking of the actors was awful. They chose to put them in really weird positions. I'll get more into it probably in spoilers, but there's multiple times
weird
in the film. Framing. But the other thing is that they literally set the characters in a weird position. Remember, like, most of the way through the film, I straight up was just like, why are you not doing this? Like, there's a scene, I'll do it in the spoilers, but there is one scene in particular where I straight up was just like, you are not doing the logical thing right now because the script demands it.
Yeah.
And it's so blatantly obvious.
And there's some stupid stuff. Okay, let's get into spoilers, because go ahead and do your thing, and then we'll go. Your closeout.
Yeah, but anyway, overall, this film just really struggles in a lot of ways that it's not even like B-movie so bad that it's fun. It's not like Moonstruck where you can make fun of how cheesy the dialogue is and just enjoy the film in that kind of way. It's not fun. It's not delightful. It's tired,
insulting.
It's tired. It's drug out, and it is straight up insulting.
Yeah.
So, do we recommend this film? Absolutely not. Don't even bother. If it shows up on streaming, don't even bother. It's not worth your time.
No, watch it on streaming and make fun of it. Do it. Make a YouTube channel making fun of it.
Don't do that. We're in the business of doing that.
I think it's a good idea.
Of course you do. We made a YouTube channel that does that exact thing.
I don't know what you're talking about.
We do that once a month, beginning of the month.
Right.
But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this. We're going to get into spoilers, but before we do, thank you so much for watching these reviews. We do these every single week. We try to pick a film that is new in theaters so that you're not getting like a stale review or somebody's afterthoughts. Sometimes, though, we do pick films that are not necessarily like the number one thing in the box office, just because whatever the new release is, maybe sometimes we just don't feel it. Like Night Swim, we just didn't feel like watching it, so we decided to try this one out instead. And we paid for it, but you didn't have to because we gave you an honest review right after we watched it. We do this every week on the weekends, so if you like this stuff, be sure to subscribe. Otherwise, leave us a like. Let us know your thoughts and feedback in the comments below. And with that, spoilers. I cannot believe that most of the way through this film that literally Jon Voight ripped off his like Mission Impossible mask and revealed that he was Mel Brooks, and he had been messing with us all along, and this was actually a spoof on really awful, overdone, tropey ex-CIA spy thrillers.
Oh gosh. That would have been more fun, actually. I will not kidding, straight up not joking. There was a moment in this film where I literally thought they were going to go, haha, just kidding. There was a moment when the CIA guy, or the painter, is like standing there, and he turns around and like his daughter and the other person are gone. I was like, oh my gosh, it's all in his head. He's insane. That would have been way cooler. It's like, oh my gosh, he like when he got shot, he ended up in like an insane asylum, and he's like been like losing his crap or his sense, and it was like a sucker punch kind of thing. That would have been like, yes, Oscar, I love it. But then that didn't happen. I was like, oh, that would have been a better way to go.
Yeah, but
that would have been hilarious because like the inconsistencies and all of it would have made sense.
Yeah.
And like he's in an asylum, and like all the other people in the place are like the people that he was interacting with. Like that would have been awesome.
Okay, so
I gotta do that now. That'd be better than me. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, you mind if I give like a synopsis, essentially, like 5-minute synopsis?
No, just hit the one that you were talking about earlier. The one that was like that one moment that was just like, what the.
Okay. Essentially, what happens is at the very climax of the film, great value Nev Campbell, who's been the antagonist for the entirety of the film, very clearly the antagonist for the entire film, offs her sidekick, Asian sidekick number 14. Rest in peace, Asian sidekick number 14. Anyway, great value Nev Campbell grabs great value Haley Steinfeld and drags them both into like this warehouse scene. And what happens is there's a final confrontation where literally the main character has a, no kidding, M4 pointed at great value Nev Campbell, and she decides to put the daughter in between the two of them as a body shield, and she is literally standing this far away.
Yes.
And he has an M4, and he's probably within 15 yards.
And we've seen him headshot with a handgun at like 20 yards.
At least.
And straight up like take out while him and they're moving. And he can't freaking take her out and him out within a few seconds of each other when he's unarmed and she's holding the gun 8 feet away.
Well, and she's literally like, her arm is extended and her gun is over here, like she's supposed to be here, but they decided we need your face. And so she's standing like this.
He could have taken her out so fast, and it's frustrating.
It's so frustrating because then they dialogue, and literally while they're dialoguing, I straight up am just like, blam, 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 blam. Blam, blam! Like, I'm just sitting in the theater doing that.
I know. It was so dumb.
And so they do that, and he doesn't shoot her, and they have this whole dialogue, and then the main antagonist, who's like Operator DJ is what we called him because he's just obsessed with music, he shows up too, and they start doing a whole dialogue, and he is no body armor, no anything, way out, wide up in the open, gun's not pointed or anything, main character, M4, still pointed, still ready to shoot, aimed exactly at him, and they decide to dialogue. And I'm just like, the only thing that you should be asking this man is, how does 5.56 taste?
It's wild to me because, okay, so there's these moments in the film where it does something smart and then does 10 things stupid.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is and you ruined it. 3 main points for me in the film. There's a lot, but I don't want to talk forever, so I'm going to pick 3. Right. And then I'll let you pick any other 3, even maybe some of the ones that I talked about, but if you want to pick another 3, because otherwise I'm going to go on all night.
Yeah.
So, number 1 is he's supposed to be like the CIA's best asset. He has like super hearing and stuff, but not just that, he's well trained. But after 17 years, he still has all of his combat training and all of that.
He's not rusty.
He's not rusty in anything except for he keeps going back to locations over again, making simpleton mistakes that me, not even being a spy, would know not to do. Like, Don't retread your steps. Don't go where they know you're going to go. Don't go to all the people you know immediately that you've been talking to every single day you've been undercover.
Well, no, and literally in the script, while they're doing all these different things, there's a scene where literally the main antagonist, the DJ guy, has this, like, tech dude hostage, and the tech dude is just like, they're talking, and it's just like, he's like, well, where can I find him? Where would he go? And the tech dude just goes, I don't know, Lucy's Tavern is where I see him all, or Lucy's Bar is where I see him all the time.
Right.
And the guy literally goes, oh, that would just be a dead end. He wouldn't go there.
And that's exactly where he goes.
That's exactly where he went. And he doesn't just go there. He goes there injured. He's there for a long time. He mourns this weird friend of his, and then he's literally bleeding out in the bar and sits down.
He's so stupid. He makes these stupid decisions that you're like, any regular pleb on the street would know this is a bad idea. And the trained CIA agent of doom is making these silly mistakes and insults our intelligence because we're like, we know he's supposed to be better than this. This is dumb. It's not believable. Yep. It's not even that. It's literally not believable because like there's no way this trained CIA guy would make these simple mistakes.
Right.
The second one that bothered me like no end is when his ex sends him the data drives in the books, and he doesn't think to look for that. He's like, oh, I just got books from my ex who I haven't heard from in 17 years. This is not anything of an importance or would be anything. As soon as he got those, I'm like, check the freaking books. There's something in there. She sent you something. And when I saw like that agent thing, I was like, she sent him the drives. She sent him the evidence. Like right off the very beginning, it was so easy. I'm like, that just irks me.
But the other thing too is his reaction to getting these books from his ex-wife, who he hasn't talked to in 17 years because of a traumatic incident. His reaction is literally like, "Oh, what a nice gift," as if they've been pen pals
yes,
the whole time.
Just throws it aside.
And he's not like, "Oh, that's weird that she knows where I live when I went off the grid." She's sending me books that she already gave me before.
Yep.
And she's giving me this really weird, like, cryptic note.
Yep. The other thing is literally Jon Voight. He actually does a really good job of acting in this film. He's a really good actor, and they give him weird dialogue, but he delivers it really well. And he does a good job of like entering this keyboard. But what they did with him is they made him exposition man number one.
Yes.
Literally 10 seconds into the film, he drops down in front of the main character and gives a long exposition of to how this guy was trained and was a child prodigy, and he realized what he was and
after
what he could do.
Bitten by a radioactive terrorist that killed his parents.
Yeah, and I was like, this is just Daredevil. Like, this is Daredevil's story. And then he's like, I created Daredevil. I'm like, he's going to do it again. He's going to freaking do it again.
And he's calling him like his greatest creation.
Yes, he's talking about it like Dr. Frankenstein talking about his monster.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy freaking crap, he's the bad guy. He's going to do this again. And all throughout the film, every time he's on screen, it's exposition, I'm the bad guy. Literally, he comes up to, I know it's kind of cheating a little bit, but it's just him throughout the whole film. There's a moment where he's like out of the hotel room and he's like hunched over and he's like, oh, and as soon as the guy's gone, he stands up straight and like straightens himself out. I'm like, yeah, he's faking it. He's the bad guy. He's faking it. He's the bad guy. He's faking it. He's the bad guy. He's faking it. He's the bad. Oh my! He oversells it.
Well, no, the only character I have seen in film that has overprojected that he was the bad guy the entire time is the rabbit from Hoodwinked. That is the only other character I can think of that clearly was like, I am the villain, and I'm going to do something villainous.
Yes,
as the villain.
He projects as the villain the entire time. And I don't blame Voight for this. This is literally like
it's not Voight.
It's the dialogue in the script that he was given to act. He did it, I think, right, because I believe specifically that he was supposed to overproject his villainy because the writers think we're stupid. Because the whole rest of the film follows that logic, because every single other actor and their dialogue and their scripting points to the exact same thing.
Yep.
All right. Your turn to rip this thing apart.
All right, so starting out straight up, the premise is just ridiculous. Like it's an interesting premise on paper, but it's really executed
the
weird.
Interesting thing of like the daughter actually being one of the spies against him, that was a clever twist.
Except
it was projected right
so hard.
It was it's something I've not seen in one of these types of films before. But they told you it so early in the film, it didn't matter.
Halfway through the film, he literally gets the device, and the device is the flash drive's corrupted.
Yeah.
And there's a video file that's corrupted, but the corrupted part did not leave out the part where the ex-wife straight up says, "Our daughter is alive. They have her. She's with X. Get her from X," and X is when it cuts out.
That was the biggest problem with me, because I actually I thought that it was like just the part where it cuts out, but I was like, wait a minute, her story doesn't match the girl's story.
And the girl literally had just gone through like this whole thing explaining how she was with her mom had hidden her away, and they lived together, and they had all these different things on a 2-bedroom apartment, and they lived whatever, and she knew all this stuff about her mom. So the moment that the wife went, "Our daughter is alive, they have her," you're telling me that the evil program, the CIA, that's training people to murder you in a similar, and they seem to have similar abilities to the main character, might be connected?
Yeah.
And 17 years?
Yep. And on top of that, when her and John Voight have an interaction, she goes and like oversells who she is, and John Voight just like sits down and goes, "What do you want me to do?" I was like, dude, they're on the same team.
Yes. That
was right from that point on. I was like, they're on the freaking same team.
Well, no, and there's two more big issues for me. All right. I just lost the train of thought of one of them. I'll try to circle back to it, but I'll go.
Get your third.
All right, I'll get my third one. All right, so there is a part in the movie where they take the daughter and they start trying to interrogate her, and they put her in this like extra room and stuff like that, and they act like super duper suspicious, and they try to interrogate her and stuff like that. And I'm literally sitting there going, okay, cool. Like, if she's not connected and stuff, this totally makes sense. But then at the end of the film, I'm like, why the heck did they kidnap her at all if she was going to kill the sidekick character anyway?
That actually made sense. She used her as bait to get the dad. That I understood. I was actually expecting. I was waiting for it. Her was to get out of the room. Her to go, all right, how's the mission going? Because look, earlier in the film, when the guy with the headphones is in the car with the kid, he's like, he kills him. He's like, all right, what did you learn? What did you find out? The kid was operating on the agents. Yeah. He was an operative as well. So I'm like, I was waiting for her to be like, I just felt like I didn't the one twist that got me was that the black girl was actually one of the trainees interns. I thought she was just leading the program for Voight.
Yeah.
I didn't expect her to actually be one of the entrants herself. That actually did catch me off guard. But I knew she was in on it. So I was expecting her she was get out of the room. Okay. How's it going? He gave me a tracker. Perfect. Let's set up a trap and get him here. I would have been like, yeah. But instead it made it a mystery. Okay, that's cool, except for you already gave it away, so the mystery doesn't have the same impact. You just own it. Right in that moment, just be like, I was waiting for that to happen, and it didn't.
And then have the dad try to like talk to her about all these different.
I was waiting for that moment of that, like when she said, well, "Get out of the room." I was like, she came out and said, "Did you find this?" Like, yeah, she gave it to her. Like, I know, like it was so obvious that they were working together.
Yeah. No, and the other thing too is like, the only praise I can give this film is actually the main active antagonist, the DJ guy with the headphones.
Was great.
Like, he is the only character that actually played it really, really well. He had cheesy dialogue and stuff like that, but he played it.
No, but his cheesy dialogue worked. It was worked. Like, this reminds me of Morbius, where like everybody talks monotone, but the bad guy, it works because that's his character. Yeah. But he's drowned out in a sea of crazy. This guy managed to stand out even among weird dialogue because his dialogue was jokery. It was wild and unpredictable and silly and funny.
Yeah, he was the most interesting character, and the thing is that his end is just so anticlimactic and so quickly done. Yeah, there's so much about this film that there were 6 times in the film where I straight up thought, if you go the other way, this would be a much more interesting film. If you choose to do this one thing, it's a far more interesting film. Yep. If you don't do this, it's a great film. But the other thing too is like halfway through watching like the beginning of the film, I straight up thought, if you take this film and you take the little intricacies that are really stupid about the film and you overemphasize them, you have an amazing spoof film.
That's part of the problem, is it wasn't bad enough to be like, make fun of fun, silly, funny. Yeah. Because
this is a film that you literally have to. This is a film that you literally would have to make a remake to make fun of this film for all the dumb things that are going on in this one.
Be like the Room movie that made fun of the making of the Room because the Room is so
exactly.
bad. That's almost what you need for this film.
Yeah. So this film though is just awful. Like most of the way through this film, I straight up was like, you know what? I could go for a hot dog at the concession stand, and the only reason I didn't leave to get a hot dog was one, I was pretty sure that we were late enough that they were not making hot dogs anymore, and 2, I kept hoping and praying that this film would turn around, and it did.
It never does. Oh, okay. We did that a little bit. I was going to say a couple short praises for the film that it actually did right, and why we saw the potential in it. Because you're like hearing all this of us ripping apart. Like, what was good about it? Well, the headphone villain was very interesting and fun. The twist at the very beginning where the little boy is actually an agent on the thing.
Yes,
that was cleverly done.
Like
they're saving the kid, but the kid is actually in on it. Is a fun little twist. Those moments where the lady was actually one of the leaders, where the daughter twist turning into one of the agents. Those are good twists. The problem is they were predicted because they foreshadowed them too hard.
I think the only twist that I didn't predict was literally the fact that the crazy man on the street was actually John Voight. They did well enough with
Nope, I caught that one early on.
I didn't. The makeup was just good enough that I didn't fall for it. I knew that he was going to show up again. Like, this whole, like, I have Control 6, blah, 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 and doing that. I'm like, he's just going to show up and save him in the middle of the film. And then when it showed that it was John Voight, I was like, oh, it makes too much sense. That was actually clever, though.
Yeah, that was the only time. That is literally giving you the trope that you don't expect.
Yeah.
Those were the clever moments in the film. The problem is it undermines it by over-explaining. And I tell you, if the movie just started at the 17 years later mark, from then on, it still wouldn't be great, but a lot of the surprises would have actually been surprises.
Well, yeah, you would have been like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. It's really
he's making mistakes because he's rusty. We didn't see him. This is like Taken, right? In Taken, you don't see him in his early days when he's young and new. You see him when he's rusty. And you see him make a few mistakes here and there, but he mostly handles it. He's rusty. You see him in the beginning of the film like fight, and then right after that you see him fight. They don't give you any time between his fight 17 years ago and his fight now.
Yeah.
And the choreography is like instantly the same. They're like, he's not rusty at all. He's on top of it. So the fact that he's making silly mistakes doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
If he had blundered the fights a little bit, they were like, oh, he's been out at 17 years. He's making mistakes because he's rusty. He's gotten too comfortable. Yep. He's gotten comfortable. He's got native. Okay, whatever. You can make at least some excuses. But it doesn't do that. It goes, this dude is on top of his game, except for when the plot demands that he's not. That is just insulting. That's the insulting part we're talking about. But the actual moments themselves, the daughter being the betrayer, John Voight being the bad guy, obviously it's seen early on. But there are ways to make that less obvious. Yeah. And make it. Bourne did this well.
No,
Bourne,
who
the villain is.
That's done this has done this better.
Bourne literally tells you who the bad guy is in the very beginning of the film, and it still surprises you because of how they get caught, and how things come up.
Well, even Mission Impossible.
Yes.
Mission Impossible, you know pretty early on that John Voight's the bad guy, but when it's revealed that John Voight's the bad guy, it's early enough still in the film that you're just like, all right, cool. How are they going to play it? This film, it's like they reveal it, but you know for a fact it's near the end. So you're like, okay, so they're not going to play anything off of this. It's just, this whole thing's been happening the way that's going to happen the entire time. It really is a film that, I'd say it has potential, but it's literally a thing of it rides on so many different tropes that a better film could have been made by just scrapping the idea and remaking a film with similar tropes and doing it better.
They literally just should have leaned into the tropes that they did and just hid them better.
Or they should have made this a comedy film.
Or that.
But straight up, if you leaned into all this stuff and the bad dialogue and stuff like that, and then you just had one character point out, what? Because there's literally a sign, like, one of the first dialogue opportunities, this is my last thing, there's one dialogue scene that is absolutely atrocious. And it's actually not even that early in the film. Is that they're talking about, oh, your father kidnapped you and blah, 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 blah. And then she says this line, and I'm just going to say the line flat, and then we'll say the line that I was delivered in. It was, like you kidnapped me. That's the line. Like you kidnapped me. This is the emphasis, though. Like you kidnapped me? Your father kidnapped you. Like you kidnapped me? That's...
Like you kidnapped me. Yeah.
Exactly.
The emphasis is on the wrong word.
The emphasis was on the wrong word. And it's just like, how did this get by you guys? And why would you... Who thinks that that's the right word to emphasize? Anybody who has done any speaking to people.
That would be a tell if you were like trying to like That would have been interesting if like they'd have played into that. Like, why did she emphasize me? What is that about? And she's like, don't worry about it, and kicks her out. And like that was a code word or something.
Yeah.
Like those are the kinds of things you can do with a film like this. You can do emphasis wrong if you use it like in a way, but they don't. The whole film is like that, where like they emphasize the wrong words. They say the wrong things to the wrong people. Which is actually odd because the girl actually does a pretty good job of delivering her lines through a lot of it. You can tell the lines are cheesy and poorly written, but she delivers them well. Especially when she's like, there's a scene where she's yelling at everybody. She's like, F you, I'm done with this crap. Yeah. That was real acting.
It felt natural.
It felt natural and believable. And then she delivers that line like that, and you're like, this actress who just did an amazing job delivering a really powerful scene that made me start to like, the whole scene in the hotel had me back in the film.
Yeah.
And then it pulled me right back out of it immediately afterwards. And I'm like, well, it was a little before that. It was right when he pulled the flash drive out and immediately went back to the computer place. And you're like, you are CIA. You should know he's compromised. What the frick is wrong with you? Anyway, but she delivers these really strong lines in this hotel scene, and I'm like, oh, this movie's actually getting interesting again. I'm invested. Let's see what's gonna happen. And then she delivers that weird line. And you're like, was that a code? What the frick was that?
Well, and they never explain it to be a code or anything like that. So
no, she just says it weird.
She just says, but here's the other
thing. That's what sold me.
She says it weird, but neither one of them react to it.
Yes.
They're like, oh, that's exactly how human beings speak.
When she said it, I was waiting. That was what I think that was like, what set me off, because I'm like, she's speaking weird. I didn't realize at the time, and now I realize why I thought there were tells, because she had just delivered this great line. And now she's sitting here like saying things weird and delivering things weird. I'm like, is this code? Is she telling her, hey, I know something? And then she says, get out of the room. And then she just walks out and says, did you find this? I'm like, I was expecting her to be like, oh, I'm glad you got my messages. Like, you heard, good, you got the code words. I have some information for you.
Yeah,
or something. I've been like, oh, here we go. She's betraying him. Got it.
Or if literally, like, the scene could have been saved if literally the person who is not in on it reacted to it. That's it. All you had to do is like, oh, like you kidnapped me, and then
she immediately does something.
Yeah, and then they start like kicking her out, but the person's just like, are you like, do you have a concussion? You know, like, even if it's something like that, should we check her for a head injury? She's speaking weird.
Yes.
Like, something like that. No, everybody out, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, because it's a code. But they don't ever do anything like that. No, they don't.
It feels an awful lot like there was meant to be. It's weird. They over-explain stuff that they shouldn't explain at all. There's a scene, the other good thing they did well is he walks into the computer place and yells for the guy and goes, hey, I need you to hack in the CIA. And he's like, why would you think I know how to do that? He's like, I just have a feeling. And he puts the gun. I was like, all right, fine. And you're like, okay, you don't have to explain it.
Yeah.
He's a computer guy in a small town. Yeah, he was an ex-hacker. Obviously, the CIA guy's going to get. You can make a whole thing in your head and believe this without having to explain it. Bourne does that really well.
Yeah.
But they do that really, really well, and then immediately afterwards over-explain like a ton of stuff. And it's like, you just did a good scene where you don't explain anything, you show don't tell, and it was beautiful, and you ruined it.
Yeah, and the thing is,
immediately afterwards.
Sometimes though, DJ, I can't lie. Sometimes I think you're giving this film a little too much credit.
It
is so over the head stupid that I think sometimes you're trying to put like, it's got some smart parts in it.
They do. It feels like this is a person that didn't know what to do with what they had. They did all these things and then just. They weren't worried about continuity or consistency or any kind of like cohesive structure at all.
Yeah.
But they had good ideas in it. This is like somebody that read things like Bourne and had these interesting ideas in it and then undermined it with their own ideas that were bad.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like everything that was good in this film, I was going to say everything that was good in this film was like copied off of better films, but that's not true. They did some original things that were fun. They just blew them up with 1,000 things that were bad on top of them.
I think they made a plot chart and then tied in like 7 different tropes, sold it to the studio greenlit it, and then the guy literally went, I live in my basement, I don't know how to talk to people. And so he used AI to finish the script.
Actually, you know what? This would make more sense if it was an AI generated script where it just randomly threw plot lines together, because it feels that disjointed. Because there's moments where he has these like there's these great epiphany shots that work, and then suddenly the script just moves the plot along without any regard to what just happened.
DJ, the film, I think he literally went into ChatGPT and went, I want a film that's like Daredevil, Mission Impossible, and The Bourne Identity.
Oh my gosh.
And I want it to be based on a person who's really good at painting.
Oh my gosh.
And that was it.
That, honestly, that's
it made a plot point and pointed out the tropes. He got it approved, and then he couldn't write the script, so he kept inputting it more and more into ChatGPT until we got what we got.
That honestly make a whole lot more sense.
That might be it.
There's a lot of no, the film was bad.
Yeah, it's bad.
The reason I give it a little bit of credit is because some of the moments that were good were very interesting. It's not like it was a good because it copied off a film I've seen.
Yeah.
It was the stuff that copied off of other films was bad because it was done poorly. The stuff that I found interesting was the idea, the young kid actually being the asset, betraying his handlers, the daughter being part of the program, the John Voight being the bad guy running it from his childhood. That one is not original, but it was a fun plot line. The other two were unique ideas, but they're thrown into this film that doesn't utilize them well and buries them in exposition. I'm done.
All right. We talked for a long time about this film, but it is one of those things where
we always talk about these small films long.
Well, small films, and there's so much stuff that's just wrong with this film.
There's so much to unpack.
So much to unpack. And it's another thing, too, if we feel like we have to explain it more because we know that a lot of people aren't watching it.
It's just...
So, anyway, guys,
so bad.
We'll go ahead and we'll get out of your guys' hair. I hope that you guys enjoyed this review. Like I said, we do reviews every single week. Most of the time, we don't really go 41, 43 minutes. We usually get this thing done like half an hour tops.
Yeah, it's the ones like this.
It's usually these dumb independent films that we rant about, or it's one that's tied to a bigger universe, or it's
one that's really, really good and we like to praise it.
Yeah, but anyway, we do these every single week. Otherwise, what we do is we like to tear apart bad films, and we do that with our curb stomps. We also watch classic films and revisit them, and we talk about different entertainment topics and rant about different little things on our podcast. So if that interests you, you will be interested in this channel. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Otherwise, we're always looking forward to your guys' feedback, whether it's by giving us likes or letting us know what you think in the comments below. What can we do better? What films are you looking forward to in 2024 so that we can know where to go? Otherwise, we'll see you guys in the next video.
Thanks for watching.